Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Risa Shimoda. I'm helping us start this webinar called Rivers in Your State, Open, Closed, or In Between. And I'm welcoming you on behalf of the RMS State Rivers Program Working Group.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the River Management Society's State River Program Working Group, and our topic here is whether your rivers are open or closed or something in between. I'm Lelia Mellon, and our other panelists will introduce themselves in a second. I want to just go over the tips for this webinar. So over on your right-hand side, you'll see your dashboard. We're going to have everyone muted, but you can ask questions of the panelists by raising your hand. It's on the right-hand side of your screen. If you have comments that you want to make to all or to individuals, please put them in the chat box. We welcome those. And if you're having trouble hearing or seeing, you can put that in the question box. At the end of this, we're going to send out a recording to everyone and/or notes. And so if you have other handouts you want to add, we've got handouts there currently, please let us know, put them in the chat or email us afterwards, and we will make sure that we include those. So with that, we're going to have everyone, our other panelists, introduce themselves, and then Rob will talk about our agenda.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're listening from. My name is Rob White. I'm the park manager of the Arkansas Headwaters Recreation Area, which is a Colorado State Park, and the river corridor is 152 miles from Leadville to Lake Pueblo. We see about 250,000 commercial users each year and about another 30 to 40,000 private boaters every summer. This summer will be a little different, obviously, but that's typical.
Risa Shimoda here, Executive Director of the River Management Society. I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm here in Tacoma Park, Maryland, and look forward to sharing this hour with you.
My name is John Wink. I'm with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and I'm the Water Trails Coordinator. We have 970 miles of designated water trails, 309 miles that are in process of becoming designated, and that comprises about 29 separate water trails. Our program's been around since 2004.
Hi, I'm David Sornichek. I'm the river manager for the Bridger Teton National Forest and the Snake River Headwaters out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We have a lot of rivers, great rivers to run, but our pinch point is the Snake River Canyon just south of Jackson. It's the primary spot is about 8 miles of Class 3 whitewater, where we do usually 90 to 100,000 whitewater customers, another 7,000 fishermen, and 40,000-ish private folks that run the river 2 to 3 times in a given day.
Hello, everyone. This is the disembodied voice of Michelle Tremblay, President of the New Hampshire Rivers Council. I'm Chair of the state's Rivers Management Advisory Committee, Chair of the Upper Merrimack River Local Advisory Committee, and President of the Upper Merrimack Watershed Association. So I guess I like rivers a little bit. Our primary work here in the Northeast, and particularly in New England, is usually informal, so it isn't the kind of managed systems that we see in other parts of the country, but we do work on and promote people being in, on, or near rivers, and work with state authorities on making sure that there's public access, and I do that primarily through my membership on the State Public Water Access Advisory Board.
Wonderful. And again, I'm Lelia Mellon. I work for the National Park Service, the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program, and we work with a myriad of organizations to help with outdoor recreation and conservation. So welcome. And so this group that just introduced themselves, and all the rest of you, you can see here on the screen that this group started just this year, really to serve as a networking group to help people who are interested in these categories to learn from each other and to further their knowledge and, help each other. So, but, this spring has turned out a little differently than everybody had wanted and hoped. So we're going to focus on this COVID, and Rob's going to walk you through our agenda.
Yes, thank you. I think one of the most important things that we hopefully get out of today's discussion is the ability to ask questions. And those folks who have already solved the riddle, so to speak, or have put together documents can then email them in to RISA, and we'll have a place where people can go to reference documents, because oftentimes, these presentations are rather short. So please, if you have questions, use the chat function and let us know what those questions are. We've already uploaded a few documents that you might be of interest of you. For example, the Arkansas River Outfitter Association has come up with some operating guidelines. The Colorado River Outfitter Association has come up with some guidelines. The National Park Service has put together some guidelines for commercial river outfitting. And so hopefully those types of documents will be of assistance either now or later this week or later this summer. There are some general topics that we're hoping to address. For example, what is your guidance for commercial and private trips? How are you informing the public about new protocols? What is the best strategy you have heard to support social distancing? And how are you managing trash accumulation at closed sites? So those are a few things that we thought about. I'm sure others have lots of questions. And as I mentioned, just feel free to use that chat function, and hopefully we'll address as many as we can during this presentation.
Great, thank you. All right. So we have a poll. We have a few polls on this to keep you engaged. So Dave's going to run through this one for us.
There's going to be a few polls today, so stay ready at your mouse. First one today is what region of the country are you located in? That has a lot of bearing on some of the things that we're doing with COVID and rivers, by who's managing and everything else. So there should be a poll coming up where you are able to vote or enter where you're coming from.
Okay.
Coming up on the screen shortly.
Mea culpa. I clicked my mouse too fast, so I opened the poll and closed it.
Okay, let's back that up, and I'll sing a short song. But yeah, we have counties managing rivers, we have states managing rivers, we have feds managing river, and some of us have similarities, some of us have very different jurisdictions. As the Forest Service, we have concurrent jurisdiction with our counties, so we're trying very much to work in partnership. We're trying to work with our counties and our public health offices to stay in sync. We want our outfitters to be following and come up with plans that are meeting or beating what our public health is requiring for business behavior at this time. That's requiring some.
We have 115 people who registered today. I see 91 are in attendance. And just from looking at the array of folks who have signed up, they're from all over the country, state and federal, and NGOs, outfitters as well. So welcome. And when we finish, I think I'll be able to do a little bit of analysis based on your email address, where you're from, or who you work for. So we'll try to estimate that after we're done. Sorry about that. I'm being lame on the.
Okay, we'll try a new one then.
Yeah. So poll 2 is, Dave was kind of getting to this. What organization type do you represent? So there's the poll. I can see it. Yay, that's a good sign. So like state agency, federal agency, nonprofit organization, outfitter, or other. I know in my state, we partner mostly with county conservation boards, but every state's a little different. So, other would be the appropriate mark there, selection. So, yeah, this is going to be some good information. I think a lot of us have been wondering, how do we address the COVID-19 issue? And a lot of us are asking each other, you know, what's best. And there's a lot of information that's out there across the web, you know, from one extreme to the other, you know, from, you know, don't need to worry about it to, you know, stay within your own zip code. So, so it's interesting.
Can you see the poll results now? So can you see the results, you guys?
Yeah, can see it.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So there you go. So that means that we've got a little bit of everything here. So thanks for participating in that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So our next item, we actually are going to have a little digression. And Linda, do you have
Ta-da. Ta-da. Hello, everyone. Thanks for allowing me some time today to honor our fellow RMS members and present 3 of the 4 2020 River Management Society Awards. Obviously, we prefer doing this in person, and we would have done this in Richmond, Virginia this year, but we're doing things differently now. So the way this will work, I will announce the 3 awards, and then at the end, we will unmute the winners to allow them to say a few words. The first award is for outstanding contribution to river management. This award recognizes a history of contributions to the greater field of river management. This year, we congratulate Angie Tornes, who works for the National Park Service in Milwaukee. Angie has dedicated her career to protecting rivers and enhancing opportunities for public access. She has served in 2 aligning capacities in the National Park Service, supporting and providing technical assistance to enhance recreation and conservation through the hydropower and rivers, trails, and conservation assistance programs for 31 years. Angie's exceptional leadership and technical expertise has benefited many communities in Wisconsin and across the Midwest. In her home region, partners affectionately refer to Angie as a real river hero for all her work in negotiating recreation access. Angie, it's been great to get to know you throughout the years at RMS events, and it's my pleasure to present this award to you. Thanks for your years of dedication to the public, to the NPS, and to the rivers. Don't see the picture.
It's not coming up. I don't know why.
Okay. Click again, maybe?
Yeah, that keep going. It keeps going to the next person.
Okay. Okay. So the second award is the Frank Church Wild and Scenic Rivers Award. This award recognizes contributions focused on the management, enhancement, or protection of designated wild and scenic rivers. This year, we are honored to present the award to Tim Palmer, who in over 40 years of working as a writer and photographer has published 25 books about the environment and national wild and scenic rivers. Tim has helped build local partnerships to protect rivers. His work on the Kings and South Yuba in California was instrumental in getting them designated as wild and scenic rivers. He has helped conservation groups in Canada and has testified before Congress on behalf of river protection. Tim's work has been vital in educating the American public on the importance of natural rivers in our lives. During the 50th anniversary of the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, Tim wrote a series of articles for the RMS Journal on what the Wild and Scenic Rivers program does for American conservation nationwide. Tim's many books, articles, and superb photos have reached the public in a variety of ways over his long career. He has made himself available to state interests, local conservation organizations, and groups to talk about protecting rivers and his love and enjoyment of them. Tim, your work has truly been a reflection of your love and passion for rivers. The River Management Society is grateful for your contributions to our mission, and we are honored to present you the Frank Church Wild and Scenic Rivers Award. And the third award is for River Manager of the Year. This award recognizes contributions that are field-oriented and location-specific. This year, we honor Bob Stanley, the lead river ranger on the Upper Tuolumne, Lower Tuolumne, and North Fork Stanislaus Rivers. Over the past few years, Bob has responded to the need for access improvements along rivers where he works. He has completed several enormous projects simply because they are important. Two are the constructed access improvements at Merrill's Ponds and the put into the exquisite Cherry Creek Run. He has successfully recruited support from outfitters, guides, local businesses, and the local public utility and other volunteers. In 2019, the Forest Service Regional Office supported the Cherry Creek Project federal funds, in part as a result of Bob taking his leadership and staff down during the Wild and Scenic 50th anniversary year. And in 2019, Bob organized the most significant Pacific chapter event in nearly a decade, hosting over 30 guests who traveled from far and wide to attend. The outfitters, partners, and co-workers have stated many times that they see Bob as an amazing can-do guy. Bob, thanks for your excitement, intelligence, and bounding dedication to your work, and you are well deserving of the River Manager of the Year award.
Indeed.
So now we would like to unmute Angie, Tim, and Bob.
Pictures.
I'll just thank thank each and every one of you for sharing your skills, experience, dedication, and being out there for us. Congratulations. Now I'm going to.
Thank you. And thank you, Linda, everybody. All right.
Okay.
So now, if I can get back to my PowerPoint here, we will show, go back to our regularly scheduled program. And we were going to do this with one more poll, talking about what the current responses have been to COVID. So hopefully you can see this poll.
1 second.
So this one you actually get to read through the questions and see what the answers are. So you have to think about it for a second. Can everybody see it?
Yep.
So,
Great. And so,
a couple more seconds. We have about half of folks have voted. Wait a couple more seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, we're closing that. Now we're going to share the results here. Can you see the results?
Yes.
I can't see them. Michelle, do you want to sort of summarize what people are seeing?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do so. Thank you. Disembodied voice again, very camera shy. It seems like the highest percentage is managing for proper social distancing, and it's going to be an interesting discussion, and also later on to see what people share in that regard. 31% said, and this is the close follow-up, you have no COVID responsibilities. And then from there, enforcing new regulations beats out reconfiguring workforce and planning for reduced volunteer support, roughly tied. So it's interesting that it seems like the thing that's going to be the most challenging is the priority.
Oh,
Would
interesting.
you all agree with that?
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Good. All right, so now we will actually get into the questions that brought you here, and Rob will lead us on this.
So the first question is, how are you informing the public about any new protocols related to COVID-19? And for example, at the Arkansas Headwaters, we have decided to work very closely with our county commissioners and their appropriate county public health directors. So the Arkansas Headwaters lies in 4 separate Colorado counties. And we have been working with each one of those counties. Those counties come up with a plan, and then the representative outfitters from the Arkansas Headwaters go to each one of those counties and submit their plan of operations. And then once that's approved, they are enabled to operate within the AHRA per those protocols. And so we're relying upon the respective outfitters to inform the public that they serve of their new guidelines, as well as the fact that we are posting notices in all of our recreation sites and other put-ins and takeouts for the appropriate COVID-19 protocol that we're following as part of the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So if you can use the raise hand option or the chat option that's available, if you want to start noting some of the different ways in which all of you are notifying the public of these protocols, I think RISO or others will start to address some of those options.
Right. I've asked people to put their comments in the chat box. I see John White says, also from Colorado, social media, PSAs, press releases. Mary Fleischman says we've been using our websites. Mary, could you also mention what websites you are using, what your rivers are? Okay.
Any more research? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all. So the next topic.
Next poll is what is the guidance for commercial, what's your guidance from your managing agency for commercial and private trips? What are you being directed to do? Are you open? Are you closed? Do you have special rules for allowing your commercial operations yet? Are you waiting for something specific to change before you allow commercial? Where I'm at, we don't have any outfitted use allowed currently on our whole national forest. Right now we have, we have outfitters coming up with a COVID plan for their business of how they're going to meet or beat the county regulations, county, state, and CDC regulations. We also are requiring for our whitewater folks, they work so closely together with big crowds, they're coming up with an industry plan, just very similar to like what Rob talked about when it comes to his outfitter group. How are they going to work together to not be on top of each other? And my guys have come up with like certain number of companies on a ramp at a time, stuff like that. But let's go to the poll.
Right. Well, and let me just comment. These pictures are from
okay.
this, right.
But
This is just
there's a whole.
Please chat.
That's
Please.
great. All right, so we're having a little fun here. This is our next poll to see what you've seen out there.
So I'm going to back up a second, Lilia. Just We got some more information on the previous questions. Just social media, how you're communicating. Maybe it's a little bit of a lag. Social media. Oh, Mary said she was on the Niobrara. So responses to Dave's question or this question. Tracy Sale says, not an essential business or one of recently opened business types under state regulation to New Hampshire. So that, I guess that's in response to this question. Rio Grande, New Mexico, private groups limited by governor's order. Outfitters are awaiting phased mitigation. So it's sort of in process. Amy is the the river manager for New Braunfels, Texas, where they get 1 billion people in the summertime each year. The state governor has limited river outfitters by their shuttle bus capacity. Groups no larger than 5, and each group, each group must be separated on a bus by 6 feet, result in limited shuttle bus capacity. Todd Robertson says, cloth until they put in. I'm not sure what that means. And then Stacy says, how are folks leading trips at social distances when they have to shuttle? That's a question.
Yeah, that is, there's physical boundaries, there's physical distancing, there's a lot of different things that are being used, breaking up ramps with large objects or whatever, putting a bus in between ramp spaces. But shuttles are the toughest thing in this whole thing. And that's becoming very apparent. Some of my outfitters we've cleared a lot for outfitters to meet their parties at the ramp, our big ramp. We have that space. And it's still going to come back to shuttling. And we are using buses at very, very low capacity, maybe 20% to bring drivers back to the put-in, to get the family car to go back down and meet their families at the takeout. And that's going to be a heavy management, lots of personnel type of thing to do. But we haven't come up with great answers, but those will be masked people as well. But yeah, you can have 6 feet of distance between people and buses. Outfitters are going to be blocking seats. And you may sit in this seat, but nobody can sit in the next 3 seats or 2 seats. And that's one of the only shuttle things that we've come up with other than masks are, how do you have your rangers ride in the same truck together? That's another one that you have to slay. Cleaning surfaces is another really big one that you have to slay. Shuttles is one of the toughest things out there. One of the other things that you have to do is consider, do you have events on your river? Do you need to call those off for the season? Do you have big group permits like I do? We've terminated our big group permit program for the summer. Our parties are going to be below 10. Those are things to take into account before you get all this stuff launched and going for the summer.
So thanks, Dave. We have a couple of comments. Todd has said, we are concerned about the pack mentality of tubers, and we will be addressing this through media releases and social media, possibly news interviews. Tim Palmer says, I see online that Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming are closed to out-of-state non-essential travel with a 2-week sequestration requirement. What is the effect on river runners? And now I've spoken with Colin Moss, who couldn't be here today, who works on the Smith River in Montana, and it's not really clear how they're enforcing the 14-day sequestration or quarantine. So if you come from out of state, you're supposed to sequester yourself for 14 days before you get on the river. That's a little bit of an implementation challenge. So I think that's all the other questions. I guess we can move on if there are no more chats.
Okay. All right. So as you saw, our preview, we're gonna have a little fun here, keep you engaged. So what kind of mask have you been seeing at put-ins or elsewhere too?
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that, this is one of the, as Dave pointed out, this is one of the kind of the tricky subjects that we have to address as river managers. Besides self-isolation and social distancing, it's been proven that masks are very effective in limiting the spread of COVID-19, and yet in a river trip, masks could be very difficult for people, especially if they end up in the water. So I know that some of our outfitters are stating that, you know, their clients will be required and their staff will be required to wear some type of mask at put-ins and takeouts. And then on river corridors, a lot of the outfitters are thinking that they will provide a buff that can be utilized by a passenger and then laundered and reused again a day or two later. If it's a family group in a boat, for example, a boatload of 6 family members who've been living together, you know, maybe they don't need to have masks on, but then you have the guy that wouldn't have been associated with that particular family group. So just kind of interested in seeing what all of you are thinking in terms of face coverings at put-ins, takeouts, and on the river itself.
So here's what folks have to say about what kinds of masks they're seeing.
No Halloween masks.
No full-face Halloween. Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you all. Okay. So, and like I said, these pictures are all current from this spring. So you judge if these are 6 feet apart.
All the photos
I'd say no.
within the 2 weeks. Sorry.
And Michelle was going to lead this one.
Yeah, I'd say that's not 6 feet, not in any dimension or universe. And am I correct when I heard that this is a picture that has been taken in the last couple of weeks?
Yes.
Yeah, that's particularly disturbing. So the question that we have right now, obviously, is what's the best strategy you've heard for social distancing, and this is not it. And I say the question is open not just for launches and guides, which we just heard, but also for just fly fishing, being along or near a river. In New Hampshire, the governor had some pretty strict guidance for social distancing in groups no larger than 10. Just as an example, and the parks are trying the idea of letting people launch boats with signage and reminders one at a time, but no one can make, quote, camp at any particular area. So let's hear yours.
Yeah, so put them in the chat for us.
While you're putting those in, I've got a couple of interesting mask-related comments. State of Texas does not allow for masks to be required. So we're not seeing people wear them. We've seen, Todd says we're seeing neoprene masks. John says we have no mask requirements. That's in Colorado. Steve Harris says there's the refuseniks who don't wear the mask, even if they're supposed to. Ed in Oklahoma said the mask question, surgical masks, KN95s, I guess you've seen them, and custom. Yeah, okay, let's see.
There's a lot of resistance by guides to having masks on whitewater trips on customers. There's huge resistance to that. Be careful.
For the safety reason?
Yeah, they just, you know, they're calling it waterboarding.
Oh.
Oh.
Yep.
I mean, they fall in and then they suffocate on their mask or something.
Yeah, that's the fear. And you know, I think with some of my guides, I'd have a flat out refusal, and they would refuse to work or refuse to get in the boat, that type of thing. It's something that I don't want to push too far.
Right.
Steve Munsell says to recognize social distancing will not be possible at all times on commercial river trips. Social distancing when possible.
Good.
Amy says we're limiting park capacity to create an environment where social distancing is possible, but the responsibility is on the user, not the city. Groups are still accumulating, so staff is educating them. Oklahoma, all volunteer.
Very interesting. Okay. So is that it for the comments right now?
That's it for the comments right now.
All right. So we'll move on to our next question, which is about trash. And John's going to lead this.
Oh, John, you got to unmute.
Thank you. So we want to know how you are managing the trash that's been accumulating at these places that have been closed, or the sites, river accesses that are closed, or sections of rivers. And I know in Iowa, we have not, of course, closed any rivers, but we have had our state parks have been closed, and I'm not aware of any issues. We still have staff that take care of those, and a lot of our partners that we work with, County Conservation Board, we don't even have a lot of places we don't have trash cans at the accesses. It's like pack out what you take in. But I am not aware of any existing issues with this. But that's not to say that you're not seeing any of this. I imagine you are in other areas.
And just as a reminder, if you forgot with the last couple of discussions, you're going to want to type into the chat box your strategies and your issues as far as managing trash. And there's also a raised hands box that you can use.
Yeah, so on the topic of trash, Rio Grande, New Mexico contractor is still removing from the dumpster. So because it wasn't an agency job, it continues. We've got a couple more just comments on social distancing. Not possible on paddle boats. It's kind of a tough one if you need a certain number of people to propel the boat. Nebraska will close areas. Is social distancing is not taking place? If social distancing is not taking place, that makes sense. A mask comment seems appropriate to have guides wearing a buff, but I agree that guests should not be asked to wear facial covering. And that's an interesting one.
Okay. Well, good. Well, those are our main topics for today. We actually I think we're doing okay on time. So we're gonna have Risa lead this.
Yeah. So thanks for your participation. These are the folks who have been on the call today. We will follow up with future support, I think, but RMS is here to meet, learn, and support you, learn from and support you. We're here for you. I think this time period of the COVID-19 emergency has kind of created a unique space for RMS to provide opportunities for learning like this, and we hope to do it some more in the future. The not sometimes difficult part about being a small organization is that we're a small organization, so capacity and so forth is somewhat limited, but we're deep and rich with the expertise of those who you see on the screen today, and members, and everyone who's on this call today. If you didn't care about rivers or weren't involved with them, you wouldn't be here. So it's a unique little niche that we have in the world, but it's kind of critical for our survival to have clean water that flows and to be able to enjoy them. So thanks for being here, and hopefully we'll see you or hear from you again in the future. Lilia?
Yeah, and if we will send this out, but John's email is not quite right. It's not IDNR, it's just dnr.iowa.gov. But we'll correct that, what we send out. So thank you to everyone for coming. Just to follow up on Risa, on the bottom of that screen there, you can always join RMS if you haven't joined yet. But then, so question is, where we go from here? So RMS on their webpage, they've added these 2 new pages on river closures and river opening guidance. So those are really great references that you can learn from, borrow from, etc. And then we're going to have a survey after this, which will ask you if you have, please answer. 'Cause it's not just did the webinar work well. It's are you interested in staying in touch about the COVID topic and learning more? But then also back to a original mission of this group is what other topics interest you pertaining to state rivers? And are you interested in doing that at a regional level or national? Tell us what sparks your interest and what you might be interested in learning from others with. So that is where we hope to go from for here. I hope that this has been interesting and you've learned something, or at least gotten some ideas. And thank you for joining us.
How about we take some questions till the end of the hour?
Yeah, we could.
Let's do that.
I'll also mention that Lilia mentioned this earlier, but you see on the, I guess on the right-hand side of your screen, 5 handouts. Those are a few examples that we thought provided good guidance. We can't show them to you, but you can download them. One is from the Arkansas River Outfitters Association, 2 from Bridger Teton, operations plan, outfitter guides, plan guidance, and then a self-certification form that Davis shared. There's a self-distancing program from the Park Service. And then I found a pretty cute little, from South Dakota, boating social distancing sign. It was just clear, simple. It's geared towards power boats, but it's a great graphic. Those are all loaded to that the COVID-19 River Opening Guidance page on our website. And just go to the regular website address down at the bottom and you'll see a link to those. We hope to, I have a couple of documents from Oklahoma as well, and we'll hopefully add to that so that could be a reference. Again, just even if it's in a different state, so your state rules might be different, it may still give you some ideas for what you could provide to your customers or your audience.
Hey, Risa, one of the things that kind of following up with what Dave said that I'd be really interested in learning about is how different agencies or entities are treating their restrooms. Here in Colorado, within the Arkansas headwaters, we have vault toilets, so we don't have any flush facilities within the 152-mile corridor. And because we know people are coming, the governor was adamant, that Colorado State Parks stay open to accommodate the recreational needs of the citizens during this time period. We knew that people were coming, we had to keep the bathrooms open, so we posted signs letting folks know that, we do have no running water and please bring your own hand sanitizer. But it would be interesting to see what other people are doing. I know in listening to some other states on another Zoom meeting that some of those agencies had decided to close their restrooms and bring in a number of porta-johns. So protocols that everybody's following, if people could send those documents to you and we could potentially post those in the future, that would be nice.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I had heard some state parks are not opening bathrooms and toilets. I'm not really sure what the thought process there is. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I know that a lot of our shower buildings, the camper services shower buildings have remained closed because we just can't clean them frequently enough, nor could we regulate how many people would be in there at one certain time. Whereas in a vault toilet, a single entrance, go in, go out, one person, I guess we felt it was a little safer.
Yeah.
Big reason a lot of ours are closed is because of not having the proper PPE for employees to clean them. When we now have a protocol and we're getting the PPE in, and that's, therefore we can go in and clean them. Once we have people that have the equipment and can follow the protocol, we can go forward and do that. It's the big thing. And, a huge piece of this whole nut to crack is ranger safety. That goes back to dealing with the trash. That's the biggest thing about trash accumulation is you just don't pick it up off the ground anymore. You need to be gloved. You need to have the grabber stick. You need to, there's so much more dangerous about touching anything this year. And, everything needs sanitizing, and how you're going to set things up and train your people. It is so stressful to have employees now. And you know, your employees all have different levels of risk taking that they, you know, is part of their persona, and making it very serious of how we are all going to follow these rules no matter what, is very difficult. And you know, this is going to be a very, very tough summer. No matter what direction you turn with, no matter what function you have as part of your river management portfolio of things you do, it is all very, very serious and very stressful.
Okay, I have some comments here. Someone, Tim, who has left, said, isn't social distancing only required for separate groups? So a family does not need to socially distance themselves amongst each other or just with other groups. I think that's the case. So
That's true.
yeah. So that
You know, what we're looking at is, you know, some rivers are requiring, you know, one family per boat. I think that's down in Rob's neighborhood. In my world, you know, I have outfitters that put 16 customers in a boat and one guide, big 18, 20-foot boats. We're going way down from that. They can't take more than 10 people. Is it feasible to have the Johnson family of 4 and the Smith family of 4 in the same boat together and have them 6 feet apart from each other? Yes, it is. In a raft, even a smaller one, are the sides 6 feet apart from each other? Yeah, they are. You can measure it. But yeah, you do not have to sequester the family that shows up together away from each other. In reality, they can be in a small fishing boat together if they're all the same family. Well, not necessarily, except for the guide. But yeah, families, you can pack them together. They're not going to get each other sick, or they have already got each other sick driving across the country to get you.
You know, what's interesting, Dave, this is Michelle Tremblay. There's a couple of interesting things I've been reading on. One of them is sort of this slipstream effect, where runners and walkers and others, when they're going along, even if you're 6 feet apart, if you're caught in the slipstream, similar to what we've all experienced when you get caught behind a big truck, for instance, or a car when you're biking, and vapors can actually be transmitted in that slipstream. And so recently I've seen more recommendations where runners and walkers in particular have been asked to wear masks because they're giving off a great deal of respirations, and as such that can spread not only kind of broadly, but it can travel quite a ways in the slipstream. And I've been thinking recently about similar things happening depending on wind and speed and the level of exertion of paddlers, where that could happen in boats that might be spaced closely, or there might be a guide, for instance, that's exposed to that. It's something to consider.
I read that study. A lot of it has been beat up by, has been debunked and attacked by others, but there is definitely something to that. I believe in it. I don't know how real or not it is, so I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, as Dave mentioned, there's some important studies that followed up on that. A lot has to do with the time of contact also, and time in a particular closed airspace. So yeah, lots of research still needs to be done, but an important point to remember.
So a few more comments here. Dan Shelby writes in, and Dan, if you can put this in the chat box, it would be good too, so everybody can see the link. Confluence Research and Consulting is conducting a systematic survey on these topics. They would want to hear from what's happening on your river. They'll monitor conditions through the summer and publish results as they become available. Sharing ideas can improve safe access across the country. And then he's got a link. So if you can put that in the chat box, that would be great. It's a big long link. It's hard for me to copy and paste. Ed White says Oklahoma has pit toilets that are cleaned almost daily. So they have a lot of people who can help. A question, do you have any thoughts on transporting guests while respecting social distancing? I think that we heard a little bit about that. Half capacity, are there any official guidelines besides 6 feet? On a webinar yesterday, LNT, Leave No Trace, is working on new guidance regarding human waste with the Forest Service. that might be something that we can look, so that's not out yet, but we can look forward to that. Casey says, we are limiting some of our toilets because we cannot clean them enough with the supplies we have. Same thing with the limited PPE. How are agencies in different regions coordinating with local emergency services and healthcare? What happens when small rural communities have a spike in cases due to reopening? That may be a topic that becomes more common. Is there capacity in small community hospitals for increased COVID cases and trauma medical cases from river trips? Any thoughts on that, Rob? Because you are near a lot of rural areas. You are too, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that the various counties up to this point in time have taken a really cautious approach and not encouraged people from out of county to come into the Arkansas River Valley because we do have limited medical facilities. And so I think it's going to be, there's like this gradual opening, a soft opening. So people will start with a percentage of their full capacity and work their way up. And I think the plan is, to not overwhelm the medical facilities. But if we see a spike or an outbreak, then we clamp back down and restrict those who can travel to the area and or the number of trips that are offered.
Our counties are definitely our partners, and we need to work hand in hand with them. Some people are, going directly to their counties and applying for a variance for their river. Others, to me, I run things by my county public health. I definitely don't want to jump into this without counties being aware or being in lockstep without, it's something we also explain to outfitters that, you don't, the outlook of the public right now is not super friendly to seeing out-of-state plates at the river or in town. And we don't want to jump into this, full bore because the public is very, very sensitive right now. I see people get very angry when they see an out-of-state plate. There's a sensitivity that things still need to be shut down for a lot of people. But working with the counties, getting a stamp of approval, getting some type of agreement, talking to, I talked to the sheriff in the county where the Snake River Canyon is, because we will have rescues. We will have stuff where we are using county resources that are not even COVID related. Are they okay with that or not? Though that's communication that needs to happen. This is not all, this is not all just the managing agency that's involved in this. This is a lot more than that. And talking about it and heeding to their guidelines and talking to public health people is really critical. Run stuff by them. It's important.
So I have had a couple of questions about how is anyone administering a no travel policy aside from giving dirty looks to a foreign plate? What do you do? What are you doing?
In Chaffee County, they have signs posted at various public pull-offs. They've also used lighted Colorado Department of Transportation signs to notify folks that the county right now is basically closed down to tourism.
Here in New Hampshire, the governor has indicated that there can't be a ban because of interstate commerce, but in Canada, where I work as well, there have been interprovincial travel bans. You will be turned away at borders, particularly where, it's a busy crossing. There are a lot of warnings leading up to it, and essentially anything that's non-essential, including those who own seasonal homes, will be turned away. So things are different in Canada versus in the United States, but I have seen, the governor, for instance, is trying to do some kind of soft promotion here in New Hampshire, where he's asking people to post pictures of his challenge that he issued of where you can safely recreate locally, not necessarily restricted to a zip code, but keeping people in one place. I don't think that I've seen yet any state bans other than there's been some resistance in Rhode Island and southern New England, and people have been asked not to come to their places, and some people are going through checkpoints. It's very surprising.
So Rob, here's a question from Nate Randall in California Outdoors. We've had the AROA COVID docs for a few weeks, the one that you shared. Wondering if any outfitters are currently operating on the Arkansas.
Yeah, they're referencing the Arkansas River Outfitter Association, or AROA's best practice document. And there are a number of outfitters who have submitted that document to the various county public health organizations and either gotten a letter of approval or a certificate of approval. Counties are using different mechanisms. And then we are asking those outfitters to forward those letters to us so we can put them in their file, and then we know that they've been approved to operate under those guidelines. And yes, we do have both whitewater and float fishing outfitters operating given those guidelines.
Thanks, Rob. So I think that I've discovered that the chat box is not enabled. So that's why folks have been typing in the questions, which has been great. I'll send out some of the, we'll share the questions, including the link to the Confluence Consulting survey in the follow-up to everyone. So it won't come like immediately, but it'll be in an email that we send later that has questions that people have asked. So sorry about that.
All right, Reese, I think it's time to wrap things up, correct?
Think so.
And I just want to thank all the panelists for taking part in this presentation and all of the participants who signed in this morning. Hopefully you found it helpful. The River Management Society is a great organization, and I think if we utilize it to share information about the challenges and successes, it could help us out during this critical time period.
Right. Yes.
Thank you, everyone. If also one more shout out, if the award winners are still on, I think Tim has left, but Bob and Andrew, if you're still here, congratulations. And we will look forward to sending you a beautiful award in the mail instead of handing it to you in person. Thank you, everyone. Anything else, Leah?
Thank you.
No, thank you all. Sorry for the technological challenges, and you stuck with us mostly. So thank you so much. And as we all said, I hope you've learned something, and we will stay in touch.